Shalom. This is Rabbi Mark Kunis and my taste of Torah for this week, Parshat Behar B'chukotai. Who hasn't had enough of this corona pandemic? Who hasn't been somewhat depressed because our lives are so constricted? It's times like these that threaten our faith. How could God allow something like this to happen? Is there really a God in this world? If so, did God really give us the Torah? How could it be that this plague has claimed the lives of so many great rabbis? Yes, my friends, there is a God, and he did give us the Torah. How do I know? From the very first verse in this week's Torah portion. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe, Behar Sinai lemor. God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, I admit this doesn't seem like such a momentous verse, so let me explain. Rabbi Shraga Simmons of Aish.com asks us to consider that the Torah was not written by God, but by a committee. Imagine we're the ones assigned to write the Torah and tell everyone it comes from God. What would be a good law to include in our Torah? How about thou shalt not steal? Sounds very practical. Let's include it. Thou shalt not murder? Okay, let's put that in too. Now, what if I propose the following law? Every seventh year, the entire Jewish people must stop working the fields. They may not plant, plow, or harvest that year. Not bad. We've all heard of crop rotation, letting the land lie fallow, helps replenish the nutrients, yielding better crops. But there's one problem. If we don't plant for an entire year, we'll have nothing to eat. We could store 1/6 of the harvest each of the first 6 years and then eat from that in the sabbatical year. Or we could divide the country maybe into 7 regions. Each year a different region will let their fields rest and take food from the others. But what if we promise to deliver a triple crop in the 6th year to eat that year, the sabbatical year, and the year after, because nothing will be planted in the sabbatical year to eat the following year? Absurd! Obviously, we cannot guarantee that every 6th year will yield a triple crop. How long do you think this religion will last if we make this kind of promise? You guessed it, about 6 years. As soon as the triple crop doesn't come, we're out of business. Our Torah, our religion will be seen as a sham. But this is precisely what the Torah promises. The Torah could have written, keep the Sabbath law in the 7th year. It's going to be a terrible year. Everyone's going to be starving. But as a great reward, you'll get a triple crop in the 8th year. That would have been smart, because then if it didn't happen, the excuse could always be, well, some people were cheating in the sabbatical year, so God punished us and didn't give us the triple crop. But no, the Torah promises us a triple crop in the 6th year. Why would the author or authors of the Torah who want people to believe that God wrote our Torah make such a ridiculous promise that they cannot possibly fulfill and expose themselves as a fraud? Why risk it? Who would make such a promise? Let me read to you from the opening verses of this week's Torah portion. God spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come into the land that I give you, the land shall observe a sabbatical year of rest. For 6 years you may plant your fields, prune your vineyards, and harvest your crops, but the 7th year is a Shabbat for the land. Why does the Torah, in relating the mitzvah of the Shemitah sabbatical year, specify that God is speaking Behar Sinai, on Mount Sinai? God gave all the mitzvot on Mount Sinai, but we don't see Sinai mentioned with the other mitzvot in the Torah. It's because the Shemitah sabbatical year is the one mitzvah that proves that no human being could ever write this law. Only God could be the author who gave the Torah on Mount Sinai. Only God could promise a triple crop again and again in the 6th year. And in fact, according to the prophets, this is precisely what happened through biblical times. So yes, my friends, in the midst of our coronavirus despair, know that there is a God in the world. And as we ask, as the ancient Israelites asked, what are we going to eat? How are we going to survive? Know that just as God gave the Israelites a triple crop, while God will give us, as we emerge from this chaos, a triple crop as well. As I'm fond of saying, never forget, God has your back. Have a great Shabbos.